Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really on a mission. We want to cut through all the noise, the hype around AI adoption.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
There is. And dive straight into the practical stuff. Enterprise readiness. We've gathered sources from a major player in tech services.
The leader.
And our goal here is to give you a clear roadmap. How do you get from just wanting AI adoption to actually being ready and, scaling it across the whole organization?
And this deep dive, it really benefits from a perspective that's, deeply rooted in actually doing it, getting it done.
Execution.
Exactly. The specific insights, they come from Linda Yao. She's the COO for Lenovo Solutions Services Group.
Okay.
Her background is, frankly, quite unique. She was employee number 2 at Linamar, so she has that real rapid growth foundational experience.
Wow.
And crucially, she spent 5 years incubating data science practices at Boeing Global Services, managed teams in the U.S., in India.
So real global perspective.
Totally. And her focus is on services, the delivery, the integration.
Yeah.
Not just the hardware. That's why her views on what works are so well-grounded, practical.
Okay, let's definitely unpack this. Before we jump into the methodology she shared, maybe let's frame the moment we're in. What's the single biggest trend that explains why technology adoption, especially AI, is suddenly a boardroom issue, not just, an IT department thing anymore?
Well, the sources are pretty clear on this.
Yeah.
The role of IT, it's fundamentally changed.
How so?
IT used to be, the back office, a cost center, just keeping the lights on, keeping systems running.
Right.
But now, technology is moving rapidly out of that back room and directly into the hands of the business units themselves.
Okay, wait. So if IT is suddenly everywhere, what does that actually mean for the CIO, the person in charge?
It means the CIO has basically transformed into an IT business partner. They're responsible not just for keeping servers running, but for frontline business outcomes, for P&L, for results. Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this forces a new mandate. Technologies, especially something potentially massive like AI, must have demonstrable practical grounding. It has to work seamlessly, from the headquarters boardroom all the way out to, say, a factory floor or somewhere else.
That sounds like a huge shift in accountability, though. If the CIO is now on the hook for outcomes and P&L, aren't we just giving them massive new risks without maybe giving them more control over everything?
That's precisely why the conversation is escalated, right, to the board level.
Yeah.
The stakes are just much, much higher now.
Okay.
And the major catalyst, the thing that really accelerated this whole high-stakes shift, no surprise, it's generative AI.
Right.
Gen AI.
Of course.
It's given AI yet another reason to be front and center. Because Gen AI makes it truly collaborative, productive, not just for the organization as a whole, but for every single individual user.
And we're seeing real tangible effects already, aren't we? Not just theory.
Exactly. Linda Yao specifically pointed out companies using Gen AI right now to run, say, a much more efficient contact center, or to dramatically streamline how software engineering gets done.
Makes sense.
And because Gen AI is, by its nature, sort of democratized, you access it with natural language, right? It creates this incredibly powerful multiplicative effect. It scales knowledge instantly, broadly, across the entire enterprise.
Okay, so that brings us right to the big challenge. You've got senior executives pushing hard for AI adoption.
They are.
And interestingly, unlike maybe some previous tech waves, people aren't really skeptical. They seem eager. They're taking courses, watching videos. The desire is definitely there.
People want to embrace it, yes.
So if the willingness is there, why are so many companies still kind of stuck? Stuck in pilot project mode, failing to actually scale this thing up?
Because desire and, let's say, infrastructure readiness are two very, very different things.
Yeah.
Once organizations move past that initial, wow, this is cool excitement, they hit these massive practical roadblocks. The willingness is there, sure, but when you look at large-scale enterprise adoption, the questions just become overwhelming.
Like what? What are the big ones?
Well, first, where exactly do we even start this whole process? Then, is our security posture actually strong enough? Can we protect our proprietary data while we're training these models?
Huge concern.
Huge. Then, policies. Are our corporate policies mature enough? Can they handle responsible AI use? Things like bias, ethics.
Right, the responsible AI piece.
And then the immediate stuff. Has our talent actually been upskilled for this? Do people know how to use these tools effectively? And fundamentally, is the underlying tech stack robust enough to even support these capabilities at scale?
This sounds less like a pure technology problem and maybe more like a leadership and process problem.
I think that's fair to say.
So if readiness is the big hurdle, what's the solution? Did Linda Yao and Lenovo share a kind of battle-tested methodology for getting over it?
They did. They have a proven framework. It centers on 4 core pillars. And the guiding principle, sort of the operational mantra, is security first and people next.
Okay, security first, people next. Let's break down those 4 pillars. This feels like where the really actionable insights are. Pillar 1, security. Why start there? Why is that the immediate top priority?
Security is defined, quite simply, as the thing that keeps leadership up at night.
Huh, okay, fair enough.
It's not just about warding off external hackers, right? It's also about managing internal risk, data security, privacy. For AI specifically, this means things like mitigating the risk of your own intellectual property leaking out when models are trained.
Right, your secret sauce getting into the model.
Exactly. And also guarding against the very serious threat of data poisoning, where someone could deliberately mess with your training data to compromise the AI's output, its trustworthiness.
Okay, so you absolutely have to lay down those foundational security guardrails before you do anything else.
You have to. It's non-negotiable.
That clarity is crucial. So if security is the first really high-stakes barrier, the second pillar is people. How do they approach the human side of this huge transition?
Pillar number 2, people. This focuses really heavily on change management, on adoption, and crucially, on training.
Okay.
To get buy-in, to actually make this work, organizations must clearly define which tasks Gen AI is going to augment. Make human workers better, faster, versus which tasks it might actually replace.
That distinction feels critical, augment versus replace.
It's absolutely critical for trust and adoption.
Can you give us the sort of concrete example of that, augment versus replace?
Sure. So augmentation might look like Gen AI drafting the first version of a complex legal brief, maybe, or an internal memo.
Yeah.
The human lawyer or the manager then takes that draft, refines it, approves it. It speeds things up.
Got it. Faster, better work.
Right. Replacement, on the other hand, might be Gen AI handling, say, 100% of Tier 1 customer support chats, routing issues, classifying common problems, maybe even resolving simple ones entirely on its own.
Completely automated.
Exactly. Getting employees to really understand which category their specific tasks fall into, that's essential for building trust and making the transition smooth.
Okay, so if you manage security and people, arguably the 2 hardest, most human-centric pillars, what about the actual technology needed? Is that the easy part?
Well, that's pillar number 3, technology. And interestingly, the expert expressed, quite strong confidence here.
Really?
Yeah. The thinking is if you have your security parameters locked down and your people processes are clear and working, the technology itself can be iterative.
Okay.
Modern big tech players, they're agile, they can adapt, they can co-develop solutions, they can pivot if needed. The confidence level seems high that if the enterprise knows what it needs the AI to do and how to secure it and manage the people side, then they can reliably engineer the tech solution to do it.
That's interesting. So the tech isn't the main bottleneck if the other pieces are right.
Seems to be the perspective, yeah.
Okay. And that brings us to the final pillar. Pillar 4, process.
Right, process. So once security and people parameters are set, this is where deep industry experience really becomes paramount. You define the new workflows, you integrate those security guardrails and ethical checks, and then you standardize those processes so you can scale them across every business unit.
So it's not just a one-off experiment.
Yeah, exactly. This structure ensures that a successful pilot project doesn't just a cool little experiment in one corner of the company. It becomes a repeatable blueprint for everyone.
Okay, we have the methodology, security, people, technology, process. But, in a world full of consultants selling frameworks, what did Linda Yao identify as the real secret sauce? What separates the companies that successfully scale this from those just stuck reviewing PowerPoint decks?
Yeah. The secret sauce, according to her, isn't some magic bullet. It's internal expertise, or as they call it, eating its own cooking.
Eating its own cooking. Okay.
Meaning Lenovo acts as its own internal sandbox, its own guinea pig, basically. They implement and they refine AI use cases internally first. In their own massive global contact centers, in their software engineering teams, across individual employee productivity tools. They do it themselves before they start rolling out similar solutions or advice to clients.
Okay, but how does being your own guinea pig actually prevent that common problem where an AI solution looks amazing in a controlled lab setting but then completely falls apart in a real messy enterprise environment?
because they hit those real-world roadblocks first themselves.
Ah, they feel the pain.
Exactly. They learn the hard way how to integrate these new tools with messy legacy systems. They figure out how to actually train a diverse global workforce effectively. They find the policy gaps and the practical hurdles. So when they advise clients, they're offering a guidebook based on, well, failure and iteration and real experience, not just abstract theory.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at the history here. You mentioned AI has been around for decades in some form. So why now? Why are senior management and boards dedicating so much focus, so much capital to it right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. We can understand the current, let's call it excitement level, better if we put it in context with the previous two sort of waves of AI enthusiasm. The core tech might have been there, but the enabling environment wasn't quite right before.
Okay. So what defined that first wave?
The first wave,
Mm-hmm.
think roughly mid-2000s, it's often called the Flash Boys era.
Ah, high-frequency trading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
HFT in the financial sector.
Yeah.
Using complex algorithms, super high-performance computing to execute financial trades at, lightning speed.
Right.
This definitely proved AI's raw power and speed, but its impact was pretty niche, right? Highly specialized. It did, however, spark some of the first really serious conversations around needing new policies, new processes to govern this stuff.
Okay, so it showed power in finance, but maybe not broad applicability for the average company. What changed in the second wave?
That was more the 2010s, and it was defined primarily by the rise of accessible cloud computing.
Cloud.
Cloud made computing power relatively cheap, scalable, easy to access for almost anyone. And this just fundamentally boosted awareness of the value of data. It spurred the adoption of sophisticated data visualization tools. And it led to, well, almost every industry hiring data science departments.
That's when DI really took off.
Absolutely. Business intelligence, foundational data governance, that all matured significantly during that second wave.
Okay, so we went from niche finance innovation with HFT to widespread data awareness thanks to the cloud. And now we hit this third wave, Gen AI democratization in, say, 2024. If Gen AI is supposed to be the ultimate goal, the big prize, does that mean all that foundational BI work, the data governance from the last wave, is that now obsolete? Should companies just leapfrog that?
Quite the opposite, actually. Linda Yao suggested that Gen AI is like the tide that's going to raise all boats.
Okay, explain that. How does the fancy new stuff help the older foundational stuff?
Well, here's the key takeaway she offered. While loads of organizations are racing toward full Gen AI adoption, many quickly discover they aren't technically ready for it yet. They lack the data quality, the governance.
Right, the stuff from wave 2.
Exactly. But the sheer push for Gen AI from the top forces these companies to move up the data and analytics value chain anyway, even if they can't implement full Gen AI tomorrow.
So the ambition drives foundational improvement.
Precisely. It means investment, education, executive attention. It's now massively boosted for those fundamental building blocks. Data quality, data governance, even traditional BI. The fundamentals end up benefiting enormously from all the excitement around the advanced stuff.
That connects the dots really well between organizational priorities. Okay, let's circle back to security for a moment, specifically thinking about the modern, often remote workforce. How on earth do you manage AI risks when employees are using these tools outside the company's physical walls, potentially using apps you haven't even approved?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
And it sits right at that critical intersection of the security pillar and the people pillar.
Okay.
The expert view here was that managing AI outside the company walls isn't about trying to build some giant impenetrable digital fence. That's probably futile.
Right.
Instead, it requires identifying the user persona and the specific use case they're working on. That allows you to define appropriate, tailored guardrails. Because everyone uses AI differently, right?
Yeah.
And their need for data access varies hugely.
Can you elaborate on that? How different can those personas be within one company?
Oh, absolutely. Think about 3 distinct users that were mentioned in the source material. First, you might have your typical office worker, maybe dialing in from an airport lounge. They're using AI for quick collaboration, maybe drafting emails, prepping for a big presentation.
Yeah.
Pretty standard productivity stuff.
Okay, persona 1.
Second, picture someone on a manufacturing floor. They might be using computer vision, powered by AI, to inspect the quality of components coming down the line in real time. Very different context, different data.
Totally different. Okay, third.
Third, maybe someone in the ESG office, environmental social governance. They could be using AI to review vast amounts of documents, maybe legal transcripts, regulatory filings, to monitor environmental compliance. Again, highly sensitive data, specific task.
And the guardrails, the security controls for each of those three must be fundamentally different.
Precisely. The manufacturing worker needs guardrails around the integrity and accuracy of that vision model's output. Is it spotting defects correctly?
Mm-hmm.
The ESG analyst needs strict guardrails around data privacy, handling potentially sensitive regulatory or legal documents. The office worker needs controls around maybe not pasting confidential company strategy into a public AI tool.
Right.
The solution has to be tailored to the objective, the data sensitivity, and the user's actual need to know, which loops right back to why that people pillar understanding users, training them is so critical alongside security.
Okay. Finally, then, let's tackle the broader, more general risks we always hear about with AI. Things like bias creeping into models, AI hallucinating or making things up, ethical concerns, privacy violations. How do we manage those?
Well, the perspective shared was that managing these kinds of ethical and quality risks, it always points back to those four foundational pillars again.
Security, people, technology, process.
Exactly. Risk mitigation here requires careful, safe experimentation. It really comes down to fundamentally understanding the user, their objective, what they're trying to achieve with the AI, and then ensuring you hire, or maybe retain, the right internal or external experts who can advise on how to draw those specific parameters for safe use and testing.
So it's about structured management, not just hoping for the best.
Absolutely. In the experience shared in the sources, almost every single risk management concern you can think of, whether it's bias, hallucination, privacy, ethics, it can usually be traced back to a weakness in one or more of those four boxes. Maybe poor security protocols allowed bad data in. Maybe inadequate training meant people used it wrong. Perhaps an unstable tech architecture led to unreliable outputs. Or maybe there was just a lack of defined processes for checking errors or handling exceptions.
That four-pillar structure seems incredibly robust for diagnosing problems, then. Okay, we've covered readiness, the history, the risks. One last big question. Does adopting these emerging technologies like AI, does it fundamentally change a company's business model? Or does it mostly just make the existing model run more efficiently?
That's a challenging question, and the insight here was, well, quite pointed. It doesn't always change the business model.
Yeah.
But the strong consensus seemed to be that it should.
It should. Why?
Think about it. If a company puts this enormous effort, massive investment in time, money, focus, into refining AI, making it secure, ethical, responsible, unbiased, adaptable, all that work, and yet their fundamental business model remains static, unchanged.
Yeah.
That arguably, that enormous effort was ultimately wasted, or at least under-leveraged. The potential for true business model transformation, that's seen as the real payoff. That's what justifies the immense effort involved.
That really brings us to a compelling final thought for you, the listener. History kind of shows us, doesn't it, that whenever a powerful new technology emerges, think the internet, maybe mobile phones, now AI, there's always this corresponding wave of concern about relevance. People worry, right? Will this replace my job?
And it's understandable. But historical data, again and again, consistently shows that technology generally helps augment most workers. It tends to take over the tedious, the repetitive tasks.
Freeing people up.
Exactly. Making our jobs hopefully more productive, maybe even more enjoyable, and allowing us as individuals to focus our unique human expertise on higher value, more creative, more strategic tasks.
That's a great perspective to maybe end on. So, considering those three waves of AI, we talked about the niche HRT wave, the cloud and data awareness wave, and now this Gen AI democratization wave. Here's a final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. Where do you see the next big policy debate emerging? Will the political and corporate focus be mainly on security, on preventing IP leakage and misuse? Or will it shift more towards defining those tricky societal boundaries between automation and augmentation? And maybe more personally, what skill will you prioritize learning or honing next now that you know those four pillars of readiness?
Some interesting questions to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into strategic AI readiness and leadership.
Until next time.